the world is set into 3 groups of people, I think we'd have the negative, the positive, and the neutral. If you ask these groups, who is the true genius? One may say, Don Bluth, Walt Disney is overrated, and destroys bleak tales like The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And The Little Mermaid. By making them whimsical. While another group may say, Walt Disney, bigger budget, better films. 1 or 2 may be duds, but there's a handful to redeem those few. Meanwhile, the majority of Don Bluth's work is putrid filth. And then, of course, there's the medium, which will say, I like both. Both have some bad movies, and some good ones. It happens. Well then, I have 2 things to bring to your attention, whatever side you may be on. First, Don Bluth actually began as a Disney animator. I would imagine he is who he is because of where he came from. I'm sure he got a lot out of working for Disney. The second thing I'd like to point out is Disney may be a money-making corporation, but that hardly makes them immune to their share of putrid, scum-sucking filth. Exhibit A being the vast majority of Disney sequels and/or prequels, excluding the following. Rescuers Down Under, better than the first. An extremely goofy movie, was totally cute. Lion King 1.5 was just awesome. Toy Story 2 and 3 were actually just as good as the first. Some may even argue that they were better than the original. But I like them all on a fairly even scale. That's not a lot when you sit back and realize just how many sequels and/or prequels Disney has tried to desperately shove into our faces while saying, if you love the first, you'll love this! Yet more than half of these films never even made it to theaters. Meaning they went straight to video/DVD. Which implies to anyone with half a brain that Disney's not very proud of these pieces of work. I realize there are some good live-action sequels and some not so good, but today we're merely discussing the animated features, as there aren't enough hours in the day to look at all of Disney's body of work. Shall we get started? First I'm going to look at Don Bluth, since he has fewer features to his resume. Most animation lovers know and practically worship Don Bluth's more popular film, The Secret of Nimh. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if somewhere there was someone whom had the fucking movie on a shrine in their bedroom. It's an amazing piece of work. For the small few that have even seen or heard of it, you should be taken aside and beaten repeatedly, and then watch the movie. Moving on to the small one, which is also considered a Walt Disney film. I've never heard of it until just recently, so I can't really say anything bad about it. Then we have The Secret of Nimh, awe-inspiring. An American tale, adorable with a lot of sentimental value. Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, fun, entertaining, and cute. All great movies that I've thoroughly enjoyed throughout my life. Then we get into his 1990s work, which is debated to be his downfall. In the 1990s, Don Bluth brought us Rock-a-Doodle, which sadly is a guilty pleasure that I still adore in spite of the fact that the movie is completely lame. Thumbelina, which I despise with a passion, monumentally annoying. A troll in Central Park, offensive to a child's intellect. I hate even more than I hate Thumbelina. Pebble and the Penguin, yet another guilty pleasure that I love in spite of its prodigious lameness. Anastasia, which seems to have nice balance of Don Bluth's cute lameness and Don Bluth's ridiculous why did he do that ness. Then there's Titan AE, which I haven't seen, so again, I can't say anything. And finally, Gift of the Hoopoe? Howpo? I haven't even heard of this, and based on its title, 3 words. What the fuck? Apparently, it was made in 2009, but I have no recollection whatsoever of this thing. Now on to Walt Disney. Not my fave, but I don't have a necklace of my fave. She's probably my second fave. Disney Corporation has a lot of experience. In fact, the year that Don Bluth was born, Disney was releasing the first ever full-length animated movie. Don Bluth hardly has a chance in this respect. I wouldn't be surprised if he's ever said Disney was his inspiration to be an animator and then director in the first place. Disney is like the Michael Jackson for animators. Universally inspirational. But as I said before, Disney isn't without their share of flops. Aladdin and the King of Thieves, Atlantis, Mila's Return, Bambi 2, Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas, Belle's Magical World, and apparently Belle's Tales of Friendship. I didn't even know that was released. Brother Bear 2, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, The Adventure Begins. Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True. Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, an extremely goofy movie. The Fox and the Hound 2, Hercules 0 to Hero, The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, The Jungle Book 2, Trunks New Groove, Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Adventure, Leroy and Stitch, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, Stitch the Movie, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, The Lion King 1.5, The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, The Little Mermaid Ariel's Beginning, Mulan 2, 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World, The Return of Jafar, Return to Neverland, Tarzan 2, Tarzan and Jane, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, Rescuers Down Under. There's a zillion of Winnie the Pooh movies, but I think of them as extensions to the first movie. Since they made the first movie like a storybook, with chapters and everything. And that's kind of how I look at the Tigger movie and then, Piglet's Big Movie or whatever it's called. I actually despise Pooh. Tigger is my favorite character, which is very noticeable in the opening sequence of Ask Lizzie. It's very blatant. And I was ecstatic when he got his own movie. I believe the sentence that I uttered was, "It's about time," or something to that effect. So, I won't discuss those movies. First, let's talk about the Aladdin sequels. Return of Jafar seemed like a good idea. And it should have been great, but instead we get a choppy piece of shit. I've said repeatedly that the second Aladdin is half-hearted and, sloppy seconds. On top of that, this movie sorely lacks one extremely recognizable voice, Robin Williams. I mentioned in my favorite movies of all time list that without Williams you have a painfully lame movie, and Return of Jafar is the case in point of this theory. How about Aladdin and the King of Thieves? Well, Williams was the only good thing about that movie, and the rest of it fell pretty flat. Except when Princess Jasmine proved, again, why I love her so much, and she's my favorite princess.
That was for ruining my wedding.
That was fucking awesome. Do it again, do it again.
That was for ruining my wedding.
Love it. While the third movie is not nearly as annoying as the second, it still can't compare to the first. Atlantis Milo's Return was incredibly unnecessary. In fact, I'm going to categorize the unnecessary sequels so not to repeat myself. These sequels are unnecessary based off of two reasons. A, the first movie ended perfectly, giving no real need for a sequel, and B, the original didn't garner enough acclaim financially nor critically for it to be sequel-worthy. Or the rarity, C, both! Now, I actually love Atlantis, The Lost Empire, but sadly, most people either haven't seen it or didn't like it. So the sequel shouldn't have even been put into effect. I mean, that and the ending wrapped everything up pretty well. So Milo's Return was double unnecessary. The same goes for the following films. Bambi, Beauty and the Beast, all of the sequels, Brother Bear, Cinderella and all of its sequels, The Fox and the Hound, Hercules and whatever Hero to Zero was, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Jungle Book, The Emperor's New Groove, aka Kronk's New Groove, Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, Lilo and Stitch, and all of those, Mulan, and finally, Tarzan. Well, Toy Story doesn't just have the two sequels that everyone knows and loves. It also has Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, The Adventure Begins, which, by the enigmatically long title, I'm guessing is a prequel, based off of the whole Adventure Begins part. I've never seen it, and therefore I have nothing more to say. Regarding an extremely goofy movie, I actually like the premise of Max going to college, and I think they did it well. I mean, we get the same you're a nerd and I'm a cool skateboarder relationship, and we get new characters. And I appreciate that even though they're older and going to college, the general character's personality hasn't changed with any of them. And this is absolutely the only time I can tolerate Pauly Shore. With The Lion King 1.5, you get the greatest sidekicks ever in their own movie, and I loved seeing the story from their perspective. I'm sorry, but I did. I mean, sure, it's not the greatest movie on the face of the planet, but it's still awesome. It's Timon and Pumbaa! Unfortunately, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, wasn't as auspicious as the first, or even the half. I don't find it nearly as irritating as, say, The Return of Jafar, but it lacked the same magic as the first, and it suffered greatly for that. I mean, it's basically the first film all over again, except Simba doesn't die in this one like his father did in the first. He only gets injured. Okay. Because the voice actor for Mufasa was African American, so you felt okay about killing him off. But Simba was voiced by Mr. Ferris Bueller himself, so you can't kill him? What the fuck, Disney? I mean, really? Oh, and the lead, of course, is female instead of male. Oh, God help me. Little Mermaid. For those of you who haven't seen it, I've reviewed the original Little Mermaid. As I've said, it's not my least favorite Disney movie of all time, but it's not my favorite either. So, if I didn't care for the first film, you can imagine how I felt about the sequel and prequel. With the second movie, Return of the Sea, we get Ariel and Eric secluding their daughter, Melody. That's right, Ariel and Eric did the nasty. Oh, and by the way, I hate their daughter's name. If you wanted to name her something music-oriented, you should have gone for Treble, because like her mother, she's nothing but trouble. So they seclude her from the sea due to idle threats from Ursula's sister Morgana. What is it we don't know about these scorned family members until after the person died? Same as Lion King 2, it's the same movie as the first, only this time we get a whiny black-haired 12-year-old instead of a whiny red-haired 16-year-old. And Melody doesn't want to be a mermaid to get a boy. She just wants to be a mermaid to, I don't know, swim? And maybe also piss off Mommy? And then the ending of the movie seriously pissed me off because it was full of Aladdin.
I'm the queen of the sea, and you will bow down before me.
I wonder where Disney could have gotten that idea.
Ah, yes. Abject humiliation.
There was no need to make an Ariel's beginning. We already got the gist of it. If you wanted to explain to viewers what happened to Ariel's mom, you could have just made a little short film and then added it as a special feature to the Little Mermaid Special Edition DVD. Seems like a better idea than making a whole movie. Pocahontas 2: Journey to a New World. According to the history of Pocahontas, she did in fact venture to England. But why was this worth a 90-minute movie? I mean, the first one was so-so. How does mediocre imply sequel-worthy? I personally didn't hate the first, although there are loads of problems with it and bucket loads of corniness. My personal favorite being that this is our villain, and his villain song utters this line.
But think how they'll squirm when they see how I glitter. The ladies of court will be all a twitter.
Oh my god, I think every gay man in the world just threw up. Yeah, you're real hardcore. I quiver with fear because you glitter. But the second was even more thoughtless than the first. If you're trying to educate youth without coming off as if you're trying to educate them, you're doing a very poor job of it, Disney. Return to Neverland, a second generation of kids flying off to a place of make-believe. Really? Really? You can't think of anything mildly original to give us, so you have to revamp the first movie, but just call it The Return to Neverland? Disney, you cannot top Peter Pan, no matter how many times you try to remake it. So please stop trying, and leave Tinkerbell alone! God! Mostly this exploration piece ensued because I wanted to give my 2 cents in regards to Walt Disney's horrendous sequels and their prequels. And touch on Don Bluth as well. I haven't acknowledged the sequels of his movies, like Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, and An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, because he didn't actually direct those, and from what I know, from what I can tell, his name isn't a part of them. Unless he was simply uncredited, I really don't know. And as far as The Secret of Nimh 2 goes, I could kill everyone who partook in that. How do you have a Secret of Nimh 2? What other secrets are there? And that's like Finding Nemo 2. Nemo gets stolen again. Disney, don't you dare. I will never forgive you if you conjure up a fucking Finding Nemo 2. And that goes for you as well, Ellen DeGeneres, if you sign on for a second one. I think my big problem with Disney sequels and or prequels is that Walt Disney himself has at least 2 quotes basically implying that he really has no intention of making sequels and prequels. I also forgot to mention Fantasia 2000, which I loved the first one. The second one was okay. You know what? It's really tragic to me that Walt Disney's own company will use Walt's personal quotes to try and justify the shit that they're doing to his company now. I mean, good God, if the man was still alive, he'd still have magical movies like Sleeping Beauty and Dumbo. And although a lot of people can't stand the chick's voice for Snow White, that's still, by far, better than the crappy sequels we get. As much as I hate Pinocchio, it's still 3 times better than fucking Return to the Sea and The Return of Jafar. I am a huge Walt Disney fan. I grew up with these movies. I actually remember saying as a kid that I wanted to be a Disney animator. And I do draw. But I love animation. Which is why I still watch cartoons. Because I don't just look at it as a cute movie and a cute story. I look at it on a whole. The animation, the story, the characters, everything. In spite of the fact that a lot of work is put into making animated features, I still hate these sequels so very much. I feel like Disney's wasting their time with 2D animation for horrible sequels or prequels. And then their actual, like, innovated or semi-original movies that aren't based off of their own their own classic movies get computer animation, which is amazing, but I just want that old magic back, you know? I want to be awe-inspired by Disney again. Every time I watch Sleeping Beauty, I cannot even believe the animation in it, and just the colors, and just every time I watch Aladdin, and that computer animation I can truly appreciate. I mean, seriously, just watch the Cape of Wonders scene. Oh my god. It blows me away every time watching the lava coming up from behind Aladdin. It's incredible. Are you just so fucking lazy that you guys can't conjure up some talented animators anymore? For some reason my head hurts, and I think it has something to do with these guys. They're really tight. Oh, a little bonus fun fact for you, in case you're wondering. Don Bluth was an animator for the following Walt Disney films: Sleeping Beauty, Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Pete's Dragon, The Rescuers, the first one, and finally Fox and the Hound. I hope you guys enjoyed my exploration / rant about Walt Disney sequels and Don Bluth films.